Welcome to Hooked and Roadbound, where we talk about all things fishing, jeeping, and raising hell on the coast of Texas. I am your girl, Christy, and sitting next to me is my fishing partner for life, Max.
Oh, yeah, that would be me. Today we're going to talk about, you know, guided fishing trips. Is that right?
Yeah, something I wish I knew a little bit about a lot
Yeah.
sooner.
And make sure you ask the right questions about your guide, about your guided fishing trip, what you're actually going to be doing, all that stuff.
Whether you're heading to Port Aransas, Corpus Christi, Aransas Pass, or Rockport, anywhere that the saltwater really touches in Texas, this guide is going to save you money and stress and possibly a busted marriage arrangement on the kayaks.
Yep.
Because I was, after our guided fishing trip,
You were done.
I was hangry, tired, fishless
Okay. So that brings me to another point. You need to make sure and take some snacks.
too. I need to remember, he always tries to remind me, and I always forget.
Always take some snacks. Take more than you think you're going to drink. Just make sure that you have something with you.
Yeah.
Because if not, what happens?
Um,
Where do you get
hangry.
very, very.
Like worse than a normal hanger after you're done fishing, and especially if you haven't caught any redfish, I get really hangry.
Yeah, I can testify to that.
But we just got done watching about 5 fishing videos, and we realized we're not the only people that happens to. It
Oh
happens
yeah,
to other people.
it happens. I mean, you have dry days. Hopefully you don't very often.
Yeah, hopefully you don't skunk. I usually don't skunk, but I have dry days for redfish.
Right. Sometimes
Yeah.
it happens.
Now, I want to set the scene. Why this matters when you're booking a fishing guide, because that's what we're going to talk about today is questions to ask your fishing guide before you book with them.
Before,
Yes.
not after.
Yeah. And so booking a guide sounds easy, but not all guides are the same.
So an easy way to book a guide is that, hopefully you're in the area and you can kind of pay attention to what other people say. Facebook is a real good place to find guides, and you'll have people on there that tell you, hey, this is a good guide I've used him before.
Yeah.
You know,
We've had some great guides since we started red fishing in January. Yeah, it's only been like 4 or 5 short months. And we've had some that have been not so great. Yeah, so you really got to check them out. Some of them were all about teaching and fun, and some acted like they were babysitting us on the kayaks. Don't need a babysitter on the
I
kayak.
mean,
I've been doing it for years.
on a different note, probably the best guide we've ever had was Garrett. Remember when he took his flounder gigging?
Oh, yeah, I
That
remember
lady's,
Garrett.
and we found him through another guide that was too busy, and he goes, "Here, call Garrett. He's probably got time for you." So you can run across some of them like that as well. That other guides will tell you, "Hey, this is a good guide because I'm too busy to take
Remember with Garrett, the alligators that we
you."
saw?
Yep.
People think that there's not alligators in the Corpus Christi coastal bend area.
There is.
There are, and they think they're not in saltwater, but they can be. So keep your eyes open. Don't swim in the freshwater marshes.
And you could talk to these guides and see if they kind of mesh with your vibe. If you're a fun loving, you're going to have fun no matter what, whether you catch 20 fish or zero. You want a guide like that. You don't want to have a guide that is just like, we're going fishing and you're going to like it, you know. So you kind of got to match them to your personality.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the right kind of guide to fit your personality and your fishing style. Because there's different kinds of fishing styles that I had no clue about until this started. So the first question to ask them is what kind of trip do you specialize in?
And those trips are inshore, offshore, anything. So a lot of people specialize in offshore, so they'll go out around the oil platforms, take you miles out to sea where you can't see land anymore, and they're fishing for like tuna and redfish and snapper and stuff like that, way out in the middle of nowhere. A lot of inshore or bay fishing trips, they're redfish or black drum or trout or anything that's close that you get closer. And sometimes you can take wading fishing trips as well.
Yeah, and you want to know if it's for hardcore anglers or if it's family friendly. If you're taking a family out, some guides really aren't appropriate to take your children around. So keep that in mind. But the last guide that we had, we thought we booked a relaxing fishing trip,
And,
but it was really more a deep sea adventure.
well, the big thing is, and that's the reason you need to figure out what kind of guide you have and how they fish. So this guy liked to float and fish a lot. So he was always moving all the time. And she likes to find a place where there's fish. She puts her power pole in the bottom, and that's where she likes to sit and fish from. That's her style of fishing, and that's what she
And
likes.
I move. I don't just camp there. I fish for a while and then I move on to the next thing where I know fish are going to be because 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water. So I like to go, by sandbars or where there's deep kind of water or where water's flowing through, where I see birds, bait fish, and dolphin have been kind of around the area. Usually they can't go back into where I'm going with the kayak. So I like to scout out my fishing. I don't like to chase the fish around a bay or anything like that. That's not my style of fishing. I like to kind of relax when I'm fishing.
I mean, we probably went, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles that day with pedal kayaks, which is if the wind's blowing a little bit,
And it was.
they're kind of rough.
Yeah.
Where he had a trolling motor on his, so he didn't have to just pedal or paddle. So he was just rolling through everywhere, and he would kind of not really run off and leave us, but we would start fishing, and he would take off and come over here, and then yell at us, "Hey, come on over here! There's a bunch of fish over here." So we were just constantly on the move all the time.
Yeah. And it was really frustrating for me because we were out there for 6 or 8 hours and I didn't catch one red.
No,
I didn't catch anything.
I think I caught three,
Yeah.
something like that.
2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, all day, 6 hours worth of fishing.
Another question to ask your guide is what's included and what's extra. So our guided fishing trip was several $100s for the both of us. You want to know if baits included, tackles included, licenses, fish cleaning. Not all guides are the same. When we went, I expected him to give us what worked on the redfish in the area that we were doing it because we assumed that he fished there a lot. And not all guides are the same. They don't do that. He didn't have anything for us.
No.
Now, Max did use his Old Town kayak,
Mhm. Yeah.
and he used the pedal kayak, but that was basically it. Um, is it a guide that's going to hand you a knife and say, good luck? You really want to know what's included in the guided fishing.
Yeah, you want to know. That's the way, if you're taking your fishing poles and using those, all your tackle and using that, or if you're going, if you're using bait, what do you need to bring? So there's a bunch of questions you need to ask. So, a lot of guys that take their own boats will supply everything, but you need to ask to make sure.
Now, me, I prefer to use my own fishing rods.
Right.
Because they're pretty nice. But maybe if I use somebody else's, I'd find something I'd like better.
Yeah, you can't tell. I mean, if you use your own stuff and you're used to it, then you don't have any surprises. If you get to somebody's boat and they use a completely different reel than you're used to, then you're going to have issues with using it because you're not used to it.
Yeah. What's that new reel that you got?
It's a bait caster reel. First time I've ever had one. Been messing with it for a while. It's hard to get control of, or the line ends up kind of bird nesting in the reel, and then you got to sit there and spend minutes upon minutes fixing it. So it's something, if that's all that people are fishing with and that's all your guide has, then you're gonna have to fish with that and just get used to it.
Yeah, and I don't prefer those kind of fishing. I like the open-faced reels. So that's what I prefer with a lightweight rod for me. That's what I really like. So I wouldn't have liked a bait caster. I've played with it a little bit. I'm going to learn it. I don't really like open or the closed reels.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I don't really like those either because I haven't used them in 20 years. So I don't even know.
And when we go fishing, we use a lot of artificial lures, a lot just jigs, stuff like that. So, and we'll use a little bit of cut mullet and some cut shrimp from time to time, but it's mostly jigs. So the open face reels work really well. And I'm trying to get the bait caster reel to work, because it's a little bit easier to use
Uh-huh.
than the open face reel. I'm just trying to get used to it, and which is just going to take time.
Another question to ask.
When's the best time to catch what you want? So, there's seasons for everything, and then there's legal seasons for everything.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so
there's
there,
legal seasons.
so if you're
Forgot about
wanting
that.
to book a flounder trip and flounder is not in season, then obviously you can't go.
Mhm.
But I think you can catch redfish any time of the year.
I think you can too.
Some
I
maybe
think you
bigger.
can trout too, but
Yeah,
I don't know for sure. I'd have to check that.
yeah, I think so. Trout, redfish, black drum, anything like that is
Sheep's head?
sheep's head. But there's certain times of the year where you're only allowed to take certain lengths, I believe, or certain limits. And it changes kind of throughout the year, throughout the breeding seasons and stuff like, or mating seasons or whatever y'all call it. So I think that changes. So you need to find out what you want, or if you're just wanting to go fishing, then you need to find a guide, and they'll tell you, hey, this is biting right now. That's what we're going to go fishing.
Yeah, most of the people around here though, they really want to go out for redfish fishing or big uglies, which are big black drum. You really can't eat them, but they're fun to catch. Yeah, you can't eat the big ones because they've got worms in them.
Right.
But I've heard some stories of some people catching them. So another one's what's your weather or cancellation policy? Don't assume you're going to get a refund if Mother Nature gets moody. Now, our guide, we had to reschedule ours a couple of times because the weather, it was spring-ish. It was going from February to March. So,
And a lot of you, when you're going for the kayak guide, the weather really changes things. So if you're going with the kayak guide and it's too windy, then it's kind of hard to go kayak
yeah.
because it'll just blow you all over the place and you can't really do it. Next one, how many people can come? It's usually a big fee for the first person.
Yep.
So that's usually, we paid $500 or $600 for the first person, then every person after that is $100 a piece or something like that. So it won't be, not usually in our experience anyway, it's not been $500 a piece. It's usually, the big boat fee to begin with, and then it's a smaller amount for every person after that. But you need to find out.
Yeah, and in the outlying areas, and if you're wanting a personalized guide, it's usually a little bit more. But if you go to Port Aransas, Texas, and you want to go out fishing, there's some big boats that take a lot of people, and they're a lot less expensive, like under $100 for a fishing trip, and pretty much guaranteed to catch. Max has been on several of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just been on a smaller individual guided fishing trips because I'm not good with big boats in the water. Believe it or not, I love being on the water, but the big boats when they're going back and forth are trouble for me.
Now that brings up another thing. If you get seasick, they do have bay fishing trips over in Port Aransas. You can get on a 50 or 60-foot boat, and all they do is go right in the bay. It's usually pretty calm. There's not anything real crazy. There's not big waves or anything, and you just go in there, you fish the bottom, and you catch what you catch. So those are kind of fun. It's a big enough boat where you're not really bouncing around at the bottom.
Another question, can we bring our own food, drinks, and gear?
Some places will let you, especially if it's a personalized guide. But the bigger boats in port, they will not let you. I don't believe because they sell food and drinks on.
Yeah, so it's kind of different. But if you're on your personal kayak, usually it's not a problem. Now, me, I don't like to drink when I'm fishing. That's just me. So it really depends on your preference.
And that's a good question to ask your guide, and he'll tell you, hey, I have waters, or yes, please bring whatever you want to drink because I bring whatever I want to drink. I don't have enough for everyone. But it varies with every guide.
Yeah, and so story time, side note, cliff note, post it. Um, you need to know your fishing guide style. I'd watch hundreds of videos from our guide. He was on YouTube before we went with him. And I heard him say side casting. Not until the day that we were there did I realize he was saying sight casting. Yeah, and I hadn't took my glasses that you could see the water. What are those called?
Polarized.
Polarized glasses. I took my glasses where I could take pictures. So he'd say side casting and I'd cast to the side and he'd go, that's not where the fish is at all. Can't you see it? Then I realized he was saying sight, SIGHT casting, which
We love her.
is great, but sometimes you sight cast to a redfish and you pop the lure off their nose, and this is what they do.
Yep.
Nothing.
Sometimes this is not your day.
Sometimes it's just not your day, and apparently that was my day, and I paid a lot of money on it. That was not my day.
I got some
Yeah, whatever. Shut up. So you need to know if he's a hands-on teacher, if he's going to be fishing, if you're on kayaks. The guide actually barely spoke to me. He had a bromance
It was
with
it
Max.
was odd because it was almost like he was afraid to talk to her, even though I was like, you need to take her to catch fish. Because if she doesn't catch fish, what happens?
If mama ain't happy, nobody's
That's
happy.
right.
Especially if she's hungry.
So he finally took her to go try to catch some fish, left me alone. I sat there and fished, and I caught a couple trout, and she got nothing.
Yeah, but he drugged me all over hell and high water.
Yeah. So you need to find out their guiding style.
Yeah.
So the big boats in Port A that take you to the bay, if you're not used to guiding or fishing at all, they will help you. They will bait your line. They will take your fish off. They'll clean your fish for you when you get back. So they do everything for you. So if you're not a big fisherman and you don't know how to fish, that might be a good first guided fishing trip.
Yeah. So definitely take some time and talk to your guide about how he does it. And don't try to switch everything up that's always been working for you because I did that. And I think that's a big reason I didn't catch any fish. He tried to teach me a new casting style and reeling in style that it was messing with my brain that day too. So he wasn't really experienced in guiding. So after the trip, I looked him up and he'd only been guiding for 2 or 3 trips before us, and they were all men. So some guys just don't know how to relate stuff to women like you do.
Well, and guides are different. So each person is different on how they do stuff, what they do. So and he's an amazing fisher. So
He's amazing. I've
still,
learned so much from him.
We still watch. We
Yeah.
watch all of his videos, and he's an amazing fisher. But I just don't think he was into guiding that much yet.
Or teaching.
Because usually once you pay somebody that much money, they're going to put you on the fish.
And teach you some stuff. I didn't feel like I really learned anything that day.
They usually put you on the fish. The last red snapper trip that I remember me and my brother went on, we went, I think it was 45 minutes out from Port Aransas, took off all the way out there. You couldn't see lane anymore. And about the time you hear the boat slow down, drop anchor, he turned a couple times and he goes, okay, drop your lines here. And within, I don't know, 2 minutes, I'd already got my limit. And everybody else had already got their limit. We were getting ready to head back in and go shark fishing. So usually guys know where to catch fish at.
Yeah, Yeah, so you need to ask for reviews and references. I thought that his YouTube was enough for me. And I also was on another paid service for him, and he's taught me how to catch. I've caught hundreds and hundreds of redfish, hundreds of trout. He's taught me how to do all of that, but he just was green at guiding, but his price was not for a green guide. So always know that. Another question to ask is, what do you do if the fish aren't biting?
Well, usually your guide has a plan. So he has several different spots that he knows that he can go and put you on fish. Now, everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
Everybody. I don't care who it is, but usually you will catch some fish. But there's those days where you just don't. They're not biting. They're not biting anything that you brought with them. They're just not hungry.
And you can use the exact same thing and the exact same technique that your fishing buddy is using right beside you. And guess what? You might be catching the fish, but he's getting skunked. That happens to him a lot.
You remember? You remember? So we went over to a place that we know, and you can almost run into redfish with your kayak. I mean, they're everywhere. We won't tell you where that is. But, so she'd been sitting there fishing for a while, and I think she caught a couple of rat reds, which are the smaller redfish. And I pulled up there, and the first cast, I caught one that was about 24 inches long. Instantly, she was mad. I was using the exact same lure, the exact same.
I was sitting right beside him.
She was probably 15 feet from me, and we casted almost to the exact same spot. It's just luck. And then she got upset.
I did.
Went up and was fishing somewhere else, and I caught another red about the same size and a pretty good sized trout.
It was actually probably an illegal trout, but we didn't know it. Yeah, we let it go, but still, it was like 30 inches.
But it was just, you're just lucky. And there's been several times where we went where she's caught fish and I've caught zero, and haven't caught anything except for a cold.
Wow.
And so it's just it's all about the way you fish, where you fish, your luck, not luck, So it's just part of it.
Yeah, another thing is to ask, what's the one thing a past client has wanted to ask you before booking that I didn't ask you? This is a golden question that tells you a lot about the guide and about his previous fishing experiences. My question was, what do you do if nobody ever catches a fish on your guided fishing tour? He said that's never happened. Well, he wasn't thinking about me, who I caught nothing.
But hang on.
He did.
I caught 3. He caught nothing as well.
Yeah.
He caught 0. So everybody has those days. And I think it was one of those days because where
it wasn't working for me.
We went by how many other kayak fishermen that day? 50?
Yeah, nobody was catching anything.
Nobody was catching anything. You could see the fish in the water. You could throw your lure to them. You were sight casting. And they were the lure would go right over them, right in front of them, and nothing. They were just sitting there doing a whole lot of nothing.
And another question is, how far are we going to be kayaking? Or how far are we going on this trip, especially if you're going to be kayaking? Bonus question, do you guide have a trolling motor, or will you be using the kayak like I'm using it, pedal, paddle, or a trolling motor? Those are some questions to ask. Another one's, how long will we be out? Will you be out for 4 hours? Will you be out for 6 hours? Is it a 10? Is it 74 hours for tuna? What?
And we had got up at what, 4:30, left at 5, met this guy at about 6. So we were, by the time we got to 8 o'clock, we were already up for a good 4 hours. And we paddled a long ways and pedaled a long ways, and with it makes, if you don't believe me, the first time that you go on a fishing trip, it makes a huge difference. If you were catching fish that day, it wouldn't have mattered how far you pedaled with it.
No, I could have paddled 100 miles if I would have caught fish, a big redfish, because that was my goal, was to get my first
it could have just been one.
Big redfish, not a runt.
So that would have made a whole different day.
Would have. And I did hook a few, but I didn't land them. So that's important. Another important question for me when I go kayak fishing or boat fishing, like, are we going to be able to go potty? That was an issue that about 6 hours in, I was about to burst. And it was back before I knew how to pee on my kayak. So I had to pull up to an island,
Not pee on your kayak.
use my kayak to pee.
There you
Yeah. You can use your kayak, my kayak, and pee off the side. So that's really convenient now that I figured out how to do that.
go. Not in front.
Not in front of people, I got to go to a secluded place. But then I had to pull up to an island or somewhere to pee in the water. And we were in this really marshy area that when you stepped out of your boat, you went up to your knees. And that was one thing I didn't want to do. I didn't want to get out and step. So it wasn't important to him because he's a dude and he can just pee off the side. But us chicks, that's a real issue because the kayak, you can't have a bucket or anything like you can on a boat.
Not
So that's something that's important. But let's do a fun segment. It's going to be called Real or Fake. Get it? Real, REEL, or Fake Fish Guide Rules Edition. I'm going to read out funny rules and you're going to guess if they're real or made up. So here's an example. No bananas on board.
that is real. That is a bad luck on a boat.
It is. It's terrible luck on a boat. Um, Everyone must sing Baby Shark doo 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 every time somebody hooks a fish.
That is not correct. And you don't want to do that at all.
If your husband catches the fish first, hubby has to clean and cook for dinner. Is this real or fake?
Uh, that could be real.
It's probably real in our house
No,
because you usually do the
that
cooking.
that could be real. But the baby shark thing, no. If probably if you start singing that and you're on a guided trip with some other people, they're probably going to throw you over. But the first person that catches the fish buys the first round after the trip.
Oh, that's probably real for us. Yeah. What about no complaining about bait smells, kayak smells, or each other's smells? Real or fake?
Yeah, that is real. No complaining.
Saltwater doesn't lie.
No, and she usually smells really good. She
I
doesn't
try.
ever stink. Even if she works out, I mean, she's like, "Ooh, I stink," and I'm like, "No." Or after you've been fishing and you have dead mullet on your hands or on your shoulders
Shrimp,
or on anything that you
fish.
wiped your hands on or touched your face or whatever, you're gonna smell like fish.
Thanks.
You're just going.
It
And
stinks.
it's just part of it, man. You just take a towel with you, you sit on the towel till you get home, and then you go take a shower. But clean your fish first so you don't smell like fish after.
Wow.
Let's see. Mm, If the wife catches counts, oh, I get it. So if the wife catches a fish, it counts as double.
True.
That is not.
That's real.
That is not.
It is because we've got less experience sometimes than the men. Real or fake? Whoever forgets the sunscreen has to bait and unhook every fish.
Whoever forgets the sunscreen.
Yeah, whoever
Well, I
forgets
usually
the
don't
sunscreen.
use sunscreen, so that would be you that would forget it.
So is that real or fake? Yeah, I wouldn't want you baiting my hooks and stuff.
No,
That'd take too much time. And you probably would do it wrong.
You probably catch fish if I bait you.
Whatever. I've outfished him double to none. Sunburn karma is real.
It is. If you take some sunscreen with you, no matter what, no matter where you're going, if you're on a boat with a cover on it, it doesn't matter because that sun shines up off of the water and will burn you alive.
Wow.
And you don't even know. Like last weekend, did you know that you got sunburned?
No, so we don't went out fishing. I mean, it was on fire. It was, I lost a huge redfish. And it was like a trout weekend. That's all we really caught was trout. And catfish. We caught some real odd stuff this last weekend. So the redfish weren't on fire, but it was kind of crazy, but it was busy. So I had a jacket on. I take the jacket off because it got warm about noon. And then I wore short pants instead of long pants. So, I mean, I was beet red. It's finally going away. And I even burnt the insides of my arm. I didn't know that was possible, but they were red.
He was burning it pretty badly.
Yeah, so sunscreen, that's like one of the most important things that you could have
Yeah.
when you're fishing.
And something to drink.
And
Just like
something to
the other
drink.
day.
Yeah, that's really important.
Something to
And
drink.
snack.
Yeah, just beef jerky but it depends on who you go with. Some of the bigger boats will have snacks that you can buy.
Yeah.
So,
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for joining us for Hooked and Roadbound. We have answered and given you about 10 questions before booking that guide. You will be a smarter person when booking the guide on the Gulf of America. Before you hand over your deposit, save this episode and write down some really good questions to ask your guide. And if you have a favorite guide,
use it.
tag them.
Yeah.
Tag them either on this video, or we're also live on TikTok right now. So if you have a favorite guide, tag them. We'd love to give them a shout out in one of our upcoming podcasts or videos. And until next time, tight lines, salty vibes. We'll see y'all back here on Hooked and Roadbound.